everyone. It is Tycho here with the EUR Web, and today we are talking to Mr. Diallo and Bashir of the amazing HBO Max original now, Southside. Okay, I have to say, so I started watching Southside during the panty, as we would call it, and it's such a refreshing comedy.
Thank you.
You know, I feel like it's like the Black version for me of The Office. Like it makes me want to tune in. It's the dry humor, but it's also the real humor as well. Like there's so many different layers in the show. So my first question for you both is this. So we're pivoting, right? We're pivoting from Comedy Central and then we're going to HBO Max.
Yeah, let's go.
Now, right, let's go. Now, how has storytelling shifted for the series? Like, do you feel like there's more free reign on the streaming platform versus being on a linear network? Like, what's the difference?
It's an interesting balance because they're giving us more free reign because we don't have commercials. So we have, you know, in Comedy Central, there was a specific hard time limit,
right?
Because it had to be 30 minutes and it had to be something, I don't know, making this number up, like 7 minutes of commercial. So you had to be very careful that you told the complete story in the time allotted. Now we don't have that, but at the same time, we don't want to like get too crazy. Be like, all right, this is an epic story. It takes place over 4 hours. It starts with good night as a child. You know, you want to do stuff like that, even though as a writer, sometimes you feel like, it'd be nice to do stuff like that. So I think
granted, this is the first season that Bashir and I directed an episode of the show. And our first episode, our first cut was 1 hour and 20 minutes. Now the network said that we can't do that because they lack creativity, but I will say that there was like a 30-minute shot of just Bashir pointing a gun at the camera that I thought was it was tense.
No, we look, our show is always story first. I think that's something that we're very proud of. We have these robust characters, we have this incredible setting, but it starts with all these great writers. It's us in a room saying, hey, who has a funny idea? Who has something that happened to them? You know, does anybody have any ideas for stories? And we start by trying to tell our 10 favorite stories over the course of the season. And then we just try to refine them and to make them, you know, more pithy, more powerful. Maybe just cut the fat off of it, right? Like, okay, this is to be a better cut of meat if we cut this off, you know, that kind of thing. And so it is a process that takes many, many, many hours and many layers, but it is really nice for the first time to be able to go over, you know, 22 minutes for an episode if there's a little more to tell. And for me as a fan, I think that's what I was most excited about. Me and Diallo talk about that. Like, as a fan of a TV show, I always want a little bit more than what they give me. So the idea, so you could give versus 22 minutes. Now we can do 28. That's 6 more minutes. In comedy, that's a lifetime. And so I'm so excited that we get to give the fans more this season.
Now, we like to think that even our 34-minute episodes, which I think we have like 2 of them, you know, I don't think they drag for a second. You know, like we definitely cut a lot of fat off of them. But we were like, what stays in must be pure sirloin.
Pure gold.
But now people love that because, you know, when I'm watching certain shows, like if I'm watching an Insecure sometimes or I'm watching Issa, after 22 minutes, it cuts off for like, wait a minute, I need a little bit more. So I think the beauty is that you're able to do so. Now, coming from late night sketches, you know, that's like the background here, and you're producing your own show with Southside. Is there a difference in preparation and coordination, or is it all the same? Because you kind of mentioned, Bashir, that you guys have like 10 stories you guys go through. So is it kind of like the same setup where it's like you're probably going through 10 different sketches in your mind, you're trying to like implement all of those, or?
No, it's totally different. I think, you know, we're very lucky in that we have had a really, really thorough education in sketch comedy writing. And we've also had a very thorough education in series writing. I mean, this isn't our first show. The first show that was narrative that we actually worked on was season 1 of The Last OG, where those, you know, Tracy Morgan and his team, they really helped us learn more about just telling a story. I think it is an entirely different beast. There's a different beast between a feature film, an hour-long TV show, and a half-hour comedy. They move differently. They have different act structure. I would say that we treat ourselves like we're students. I think that's the thing that I'm really proud of, is that we treat every season as if this is a class called How to Write a TV Show Season. And we approach it like students. We approach it, you know, not to get too Buddhist with this, but we approach it not knowing. We don't know what the hell this thing is going to be. We just try to walk a path of honesty and say, this is on it. Like, for example, one of my favorite episodes this season is the debate. It's the election. It's the episode, you know, with Diallo versus Langston Kerman. And I like it, not just because it's funny and because it has some really great improv in it, but also because we haven't written any other episodes like that this season. There's no other episode that moves like that, where we really spend the brunt of this episode deciding an election based on how this debate goes. And I was really proud that we got to do that. And like you even said before, like, especially as a Black comedy, you know, we love the big broad moments. We love the silly moments. I love episodes where Goodnight is throwing people into, you know, a glass metal grating or falling over stuff. But I also love that we can be literate. You know, we can have shows where it's a ton of wordplay. And, you know, it's a muscle that we get to flex on the show. We really cherish that muscle.
I love that. Now, Diallo, my question is for you. So, you know, in the climate that we're in right now with police brutality and et cetera, how conscious are you in the writer's room when writing these scenes involving the cop characters? And how do you make light to such a touchy situation?
Yeah, Diallo.
Damn, I feel like I could have taken the last question. Question for you, Diallo.
Give us a geopolitical climate in America.
Cowboy has told me
Kyle Rittenhouse
handle this.
What would you have done? How would you
That's
have
what the cowboy hat told me.
Right. Diallo.
Well, no,
Red hat.
I'll tell you this. Yeah, this is for okay. So listen, in all honesty, we write Goodnight and Turner in the voice of those characters because we know that we have two amazing actors. Bashir and his real life wife, Chandra Russell, in those characters. And honestly, if we ever write a false note for those characters, they will chime in. But you know, this gets a little bit in the weeds, but I'm gonna throw this out there. I feel like we did not write two police officer characters. We wrote a character named Officer Sandy Goodnight, who is, I think if he was even in another profession, you would see a lot of his opinions stay the same. Like he's a character, he hates the South Side, but he's not like some archetypical, stereotypical Uncle Tom character either. You know, like that's not the character we're writing there. Officer Goodnight, in a weird way, I've had very limited interaction on a personal level with police officers, but I know that police officers like Officer Turner exist. You know, she's from the neighborhood. She is, you know, if you put her side hustle of real estate aside, and even some of her griminess, like there are definitely those kind of police officers out there who are not necessarily like, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Blue Lives Matter, who like legitimately want to form like tight bonds with their neighborhood.
You know, there's
and I'll bring this up as well. When we were shooting the sizzle for Southside, there was actually a police officer who we did interact with that day, and I feel like she had like, didn't she have like red hair or something, Bashir? Like,
I think, you know, Turner, you know, I don't want to speak too much on her because Chandra really creates the character, but I will say that Diallo and I would be, you know, because we did a lot of before we shot the show, we just spent a lot of time in Chicago, and I just remember seeing police cars drive by with, you know, cops in there who's like, okay, she clearly came straight from the salon and got into the cop car and is really not interested in messing her hair up today, and is really not interested in you messing her hair up today. And so for us, it's like, well, we don't want to write cops because fuck that. Why don't we just write people? And some of those people happen to be cops. Some of those people happen to be people who work at a rent-a-center type place. But especially with the Turner character, I mean, Chandra, we were talking about the other day, and she's like, she really tried to just embody a lot of the girls she grew up with on the South Side of Chicago. I mean, she really wants that South Side girl to come through as a lived character. So people go, oh, that motherfucker is from the South Side of Chicago. Like that person really, really understands and knows the difference between Harold's Chicken and Uncle Remus's Chicken, and knows, you know, the difference between the Dan Ryan and State Street, and knows the difference between Kenwood and, you know, Lincoln Park High School, you know, all those little small things that really distinguish and make Chicagoans love Chicagoans. So for us, it was
By the way, I want to say that we've gotten some love from some of the police officers in Chicago because we wrote characters and not archetypes. You know, we didn't go and say, oh, and then the cop comes in and does this thing. You know what I mean? Like we really
don't do that. Like, and we also try to
exactly.
And we don't have an agenda. We don't want to write like heroic moments, but we also don't really care to write moments where it's like gotcha moments. Like it's just, you know, I think for us, honestly, we really want to write a show that just made us laugh and that reached an audience. You know, that just that makes everybody want to come home, cut it on, and just laugh their ass off. That's really what we were going for. So that's why we have episodes, a few about the cops, a few about the RTO people. One of my favorite episodes this season is episodes all about party promoters. I mean, I've watched it so many times now. That last sequence, I'm like, I got to stop watching this. It's really unnatural to watch it this many times. But I just love that we have a show that can do something like that. You know, could you imagine a show based on the South Side of Chicago, and then like at the end, there's this whole big moment where a character ascends to the heavens to angelic music and then has his octocopter get intercepted by pigeons. Like, it's just dumb and goofy, but it's like.
Well, how would you describe the comedy though? So Bashir and Diallo, how would you describe Southside? What kind of comedy do you think this show is?
It's a hard comedy. I mean, like, listen, it's a hard comedy. It's not a dramedy, not a drama by any stretch. It's a hard comedy. It wants to come in and make you laugh. And I think that in that mission, it has been successful beyond our dreams, because like the classic Nas lyric, you know, sometimes you write it down and you're worried about the audience understanding where you're coming from. But clearly there was a need. There was a need not going that filled, because what we hear from people all the time is that like this is one of only a handful of comedies that wears the fact that it's a comedy on its sleeve. You know what I'm saying? Like
proud
not trying to do a special episode of a very special episode of Southside.
Yeah,
it's like all hugs and crying.
And I would add
some ad-lib in there, Bashir. You guys are from these. Is there a lot of ad-libbing?
Not a lot. I think we're really proud of the fact that we start with really strong scripts. But I will say every actor on our screen typically is decent at improv. In fact, most of the auditions that we have are pretty rigorous improv moments. I mean, for example, Lisa Beasley, who plays somebody in episode the next season. She's in the first episode, season 2, where I pull her over and she has to get out of her car and come see me. She's an incredible improv actor. And so, you know, the idea that we're like, the South Side of Chicago, the North Side of Chicago, all parts of Chicago have these incredible actors of color who are really great at improv. And we want to have some of that on the TV show. And we'll let that stuff manifest itself. The other thing I was going to say about our comedy that I love is that it is comedically diverse. We have slapstick moments, we have broad moments, we also have super literate moments, we have moments where you literally only get the joke if you're a total nerd. One of our characters is an astronomy nerd, and so he'll sometimes do stuff that, like, if you watch a lot of Carl Sagan, you might laugh. But I like that. I like that the jokes come from every direction. So just when you think the show is being really highbrow, all of a sudden some lowbrow shit will pop off, and it's really just about. And that happens because of the types of people who make the show. We have different writers with different areas that they're excited about. Yeah, different backgrounds. Some people love slapstick, some people love sports, some people like only jokes about black hair. Like, either you just have different types of voices coming in. You know, one of my favorite writers pitched a whole bit that we ended up doing in season 2 about a woman who's trying on dresses, but she gets her Pro Style gel on the dresses. And I mean, I had seen that stuff growing up, but I never knew what it was called. And then she was like, it's called Pro Style gel. And I was like, yeah, I've seen that. So, and now because of her experience as a Black woman on the South Side, she's able to help us write this hilarious sketch that appeals to everybody, because everybody knows what it's like to be in a fancy place and do something.
Yeah, I saw somebody online like tweet out the picture of Pro Style Joe and be like, y'all got to watch episode 5 of Southside. So
I love that. Now, before I let you both go, so my question here is for you. Now, last year you both did ink a deal overall with Warner Brothers TV. What other stories do you want to tell? And is there a certain career goal you both have for yourselves as working actors, producers, innovators? Before we let you go.
That's a great question. I'll go quickly first, Diallo. I would just say, I think we want to empower, we really want to empower talented writers to make unique visions. I think that's something that we always felt about ourselves. For example, we love Donald Glover. He's one of our favorites. He's actually a buddy. At the same time he was pitching the Atlanta show to FX, Diallo, a couple years before, and we were trying to pitch a show to HBO about Diallo's hometown, which is Atlanta. And I think we had always felt like it took a Donald, it took somebody with his power and his talent level to get the world to see, oh yeah, there's a great idea here. But at the same time, we also felt like, well, we have these really good instincts, and we want to make sure that we support other people who might have instincts that are also, ahead of the curve, or also trying to put the rest of the world on. So, it's not easy to be the first person out the gate with a creatively unique idea and something that people haven't seen before, but we think that's really valuable. And so part of what we want to do with our deal is to put out stories like that, stories where, they're ahead of the curve, stories of things that are going to be, people are going to be doing in the future, and that the writers are making really great cutting edge, forward-looking decisions and really thinking outside the box in the ways that we always strive to.
And I'll just say, for my purposes, like, growing up, I always wanted to, I played with G.I. Joes. I always told stories with my G.I. Joes. I did everything to action. And I think that the good thing about working with a studio is that you have the opportunity to have multiple projects fulfilling the inner child within you.
Yep.
There's no greater feeling.
I love that. Thank you both so much for chatting with the Ebro Web today. Folks, make sure you stream and watch Southside Season 2. 6 episodes are out right now. You don't want to miss it. And continue you both with developing diverse cultural comedic stories, okay? Thank you
so
both.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go deal with these cowpokes.
You go deal with them Cowboys, okay?
Take care. Wish me luck.
I will wish you luck.